I remember the exact moment it hit me, like a slow, cold knife sliding into my chest. It was a Sunday morning in late October. I'd gotten up early like always because my body's wired awake with the sun. I work with my hands. Been an HVAC guy for over 15 years. That morning, I made us breakfast. Eggs, bacon, toast, a little orange juice. Nothing fancy, just simple, familiar. The kind of thing we used to enjoy together when love was alive between us. I cooked it while the smell filled the kitchen, just like it used to, hoping maybe she'd come downstairs smiling, wearing that oversized U.S. open sweatshirt she stole from me years ago. Maybe she'd wrap her arms around my waist while I flipped the eggs and say something dumb like, "Smells like Sunday morning," just like she did back when she still touched me without flinching. But when Heather walked into the kitchen, something about the way she moved made my stomach turn. She didn't look at me, not even a glance. She was glued to her phone, thumbs typing like she was in the middle of a war, eyes locked onto the screen like I didn't exist. She walked right past me, opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and mumbled something like, "I'm not hungry." I stood there, still, holding the spatula. My heart just dropped. That breakfast sat there steaming, untouched. The silence in the room wasn't peaceful. It was aggressive. It was screaming louder than any fight we ever had. I'd felt the distance growing, sure, but I kept telling myself every couple has ups and downs. We were just tired, stressed, busy. But in that moment, watching her ignore me like I was some piece of furniture she'd gotten used to walking around, I knew something was dead. We hadn't been intimate in almost 4 months. I remember the exact last time, July 6th. That's how starved I was. I remember the damn date. It was quick, tense, like she was doing me a favor. Afterward, she rolled over and stared at her phone for 15 minutes before saying, "I have a headache," and I lay there in silence, feeling like I had just kissed a stranger. Since then, every attempt I made to get close to her, to kiss her, to cuddle on the couch, to reach for her hand while driving, was met with rejection. Not explosive rejection. No, it was colder than that. Indifference. That's what kills a man. She'd shrug off my hand like it was a mosquito, pull away with a sigh like I was the one doing something wrong. Or worse, she'd look at me with this exhausted pity, like I was some lost puppy that kept begging to be loved. Let me tell you something. When the woman you married, the one who used to moan your name in the dark and laugh at your dumbest jokes, looks at you like you're pathetic for trying to love her, something inside you cracks. But I didn't scream. I didn't demand answers. I didn't accuse. That's not my style. I'm not a loud man. I'm a steady man. I pay bills on time, show up to work early, fix the leaky faucets, and carry grocery bags with both hands so she doesn't have to. But I'm not blind, and I'm not weak. So I started watching more closely. She used to keep her phone on the table. Now, it was always face down, or in her hand. She had a new passcode. I'd hear her giggling behind the bathroom door while I was brushing my teeth in the other room. I'd see her typing furiously while we were supposed to be watching a show together, screen lighting up every 10 seconds. And when I asked her, once very calmly, "Who keeps making you laugh like that?" she said, "Oh, just some work memes from the clinic." And then she rolled her eyes like I was being ridiculous for asking. That's when I started writing things down in my head. I logged her behavior like a damn journal. Date, time, what she said, what she didn't say, the nights she worked late at the dental office, the excuses, the lack of kisses, the way she stopped calling me babe, the way she started wearing makeup to run errands when she hadn't cared about mascara in years. All of it built up like pressure in a boiler. But the thing is, I never wanted to explode. I didn't want a dramatic confrontation. What I wanted was for her to reach for me again. Just once. I wanted her to brush her fingers against my back when I walked past. I wanted her to giggle when I kissed her neck. I wanted to feel like a man in my own marriage. Like someone she needed, not someone she tolerated. Instead, I felt like a chore she hadn't gotten around to finishing. There was this one night, about 2 weeks before I left, that I remember clear as day. I had just gotten home from a 14-hour shift. AC unit in a retirement home broke, and we were backed up on parts. I was dead on my feet, covered in insulation dust. My arms were scratched, my boots heavy, but I walked in with a smile, carrying takeout from her favorite Thai place, the one with the spicy drunken noodles she always craved. I even grabbed that overpriced wine she liked from the gas station near work. I stepped in the door, excited just to share a meal, maybe talk about her days. You know what she said when I walked in? Ugh, did you get extra rice this time or no? You always forget. Not hi. Not thank you. Not even eye contact. I stood there, holding the damn bags, heart pounding in my chest like an idiot. I smiled, a broken little smile, and said, I got extra. She didn't even say thanks. She sat on the couch, scrolled TikTok, and ate while facing away from me. Not a word spoken between us. I sat across the room and watched her chew, wondering how we got here. Wondering when I became invisible in my own home. Wondering why I still wanted her, even after she stopped wanting me. And that's when I decided. Not in some dramatic way. Not with anger. But in quiet resolve. The kind that doesn't need fireworks to explode. I decided I was going to disappear. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to punch a wall or accuse her of cheating or cry on the floor like some desperate man. I was going to vanish like smoke. I was going to remove my presence so completely that she'd feel the emptiness wrap around her like a noose. She wouldn't even know the exact moment I slipped away. Just that one day, the weight she never noticed was gone, and the silence would be deafening. And let me tell you, silence, when you're used to someone always being there, is the cruelest revenge of all. She told her friends I was distant. That's the part that still makes me laugh. She painted me out to be the man who shut down emotionally, like I was the one who turned off the switch. But what she didn't tell them, what she couldn't admit, was that I became quiet because my voice had been ignored for so long. I forgot what it sounded like in that house. And when you live every day with someone who acts like you don't exist, your soul starts whispering something dangerous. Why are you still here? It was a Tuesday evening, not a special day, not a holiday, just a regular-ass Tuesday, when I realized I had become a ghost in my own home. I had come home late. Emergency service call. A family out in Maryville had no heat, and they had a newborn. I stayed until 8:30 p.m., crawling under that old crawl space, patching ductwork in the freezing dark. Got back, covered in dirt and fiberglass, ribs aching, and the moment I opened the door, I was hit with the smell of her new perfume. Something expensive, something sweet, but it wasn't for me. She was wearing a tight beige dress, makeup, heels. She hadn't worn heels for me in years. I looked at her and said, "You going somewhere?" She didn't even flinch. She grabbed her purse and muttered, "Just dinner with co-workers. We're celebrating Megan's promotion." Then she walked right past me, gave me that fake-ass smile, the one you give a neighbor you don't want to talk to, and said, "There's leftover lasagna in the fridge if you're hungry." And she was gone. No kiss. No, how was your day? Just the door shutting behind her while I stood there with cracked hands and sore knees, staring at a microwave dinner she didn't even make. That's when it really sank in. I didn't live there anymore. Not in the way that mattered. I was a placeholder, a utility, someone who paid the mortgage, mowed the lawn, fixed the broken shower head, but didn't belong in the emotional space of that house anymore. Even our dog, Scout, had started sleeping by the front door like he was waiting for something to come back that never would. And let's be real, it wasn't just one night. It was all the little nights stacked together like bricks until the wall was too tall to see over. She stopped laughing at my jokes. And I'm not trying to sound dramatic. I'm talking about the dumb, corny jokes I used to tell while brushing my teeth. The ones she used to call adorably annoying. Now she'd just stare in the mirror and say, "You've told that one before." She stopped asking about my day. She started locking the bathroom door while she got ready, something she never used to do. She never wore pajamas anymore. Just these big, bland t-shirts and old yoga pants. Not because she was tired. I didn't care about the clothes. I cared that there was no intimacy in the way she moved anymore. No softness in her voice. No warmth in her presence. It was like she was living in that house alone, and I was just passing through. I try. God knows I tried. I make her coffee in the mornings, 2 sugars, no cream. Just how she liked it. She'd say, "You know I'm not doing sugar anymore," and toss in the sink. I'd ask her to come to bed early. Watch a movie. Just lie there. Just be with me. She'd say, "I'm not in the mood for cuddles right now. I need space." I swear that phrase, "I need space," it became her damn anthem. I was living under the same roof as my wife, eating the same meals, sleeping in the same bed, and somehow, I had never felt more alone. And when a man feels invisible for long enough, he doesn't explode. He fades. The night I really stopped being there, physically and emotionally, was a Friday. I had picked up dinner on the way home. Burgers from Litton's, our favorite spot. Hers exactly how she liked it. No onions, extra pickles, side of sweet potato fries. She was sitting on the couch when I got in, wearing that beige robe she only ever wore when she didn't want to be touched. I handed her the bag, smiled, said, figured I'd bring a little treat home. She didn't even look up from her phone. Just said, I already ate. I asked what she had. She shrugged. Sushi. The girls ordered in from that place on Kingston Pike. I nodded. Quiet. Sat down across from her. Opened my food slowly. She didn't say a word. Just kept texting. Probably Rick. Or someone else. Hell, at that point, I didn't even care. I just stared at her. This woman I had once built a life with. And I thought, this can't be marriage. This can't be what I give the rest of my years to. So I put the burger down. I stood up, and I walked to the spare bedroom. She didn't ask where I was going. Didn't lift her head. Didn't say a damn thing. I slept there that night. And the next. And the one after that. I started working later, even when I didn't have to. Took more jobs. Volunteered for weekend installs. Started keeping a change of clothes in my truck. I'd shower at the shop. Eat dinner out. Sometimes I'd crash at my buddy Derek's place. He had a pull-out couch in the garage with a busted AC, but at least it was quiet. At least it didn't smell like rejection. At home, we became strangers who bumped into each other between laundry cycles and pretended to smile like it didn't ache. I stopped speaking unless spoken to. Stopped offering affection. Stopped asking how her day went or what she wanted for dinner. Stopped reaching for her in bed. She didn't notice at first. But then she started to. One day, she came into the garage while I was replacing my truck's headlight and asked, You haven't said anything about my haircut. I didn't even look up. Just said, I didn't notice. She paused, long enough for the silence to sting. Are you mad at me? She asked. I finally looked at her. Really looked. And I said, no. I'm just done talking to someone who doesn't hear me. She didn't reply. She just walked back inside like the wind had been knocked out of her. But it was too late. Way too late. Because I'd already left. Not physically yet, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I had packed my heart and soul and stored them in the back of my truck, right next to my work boots and toolbox. I became a ghost long before I walked out that door. The morning I left, she didn't even notice. I didn't pack a suitcase. No scene. No accusations. I just took what mattered. My work boots, 2 shirts, my toothbrush, and my dignity. Tossed them into a duffel bag and walked out while she was in the shower, humming to herself like she wasn't suffocating the man she married. That was the last song I ever heard her sing. I pulled out of the driveway at 6:47 a.m. It was still dark. Dew clung to the windshield like the house was trying to weep for me, since she wouldn't. I didn't slam the door. Didn't even lock it. Let her wonder. Let her come out later and see the porch empty, the coffee pot untouched, my truck gone. Let her feel what she made me feel, absence. I texted my best friend Derek as I pulled out of the subdivision. You still got that lumpy pull-out couch. His reply came in seconds. Always. You need it. I just wrote. I'm done. He didn't ask questions. That's why I chose him. Derek lives out in Oak Ridge, about 30 minutes west of Knoxville. Big guy, beard like a lumberjack, drives a Chevy that roars louder than my old furnace. He's the kind of friend who doesn't pry unless you invite him in. His garage doubles as a man cave. Dartboard, fridge stocked with cheap beer, and a couch that smells like 10 years of football seasons and broken hearts. When I pulled up, he was already on the porch with 2 cold bottles. You look like hell, he said, grinning. I just nodded. Feel like it too. We clinked bottles. That was the only welcome I needed. That first night on his couch, I didn't cry. I didn't scroll my phone hoping for a text from Heather. I didn't even tell Derek the details. I just laid back, stared at the water-stained ceiling, and let the silence do something I hadn't felt in months. Heal me. It was strange. Peaceful. No tension. No cold stares. No passive-aggressive silence, pretending not to be anger. Just actual silence, the kind that doesn't hurt. I slept better that night than I had in half a year. The next morning, Derek made bacon and black coffee. No oat milk. No kale. No lectures about too much sodium. Just a man feeding another man. I looked at him and finally said it. She hasn't touched me in months. He didn't blink. Just said, I figured. You've been walking around like you're already dead. That hit me harder than I expected. He leaned back, sipped his coffee, and added, You ain't the first. You won't be the last. But you walked out. That's more than most do. That's when I realized my silence, my leaving, that was my first real act of power in a long time. I didn't yell. I didn't beg her to love me again. I disappeared, and that was going to eat her alive. The text started 2 days later. Where are you? You didn't say anything. You're seriously doing this? I didn't reply. I wasn't ready to give her the luxury of answers. By day 5, it changed tone. I'm worried. Please just tell me you're okay. Can we talk? I made mistakes, but I didn't think you'd actually leave. Still, I stayed quiet. Not to be cruel, but because I needed space too. Real space. Not the fake kind she used as an excuse to push me away while keeping me close enough to pay the bills and fix the garbage disposal. In those first 2 weeks, I rebuilt myself in fragments. I worked my regular jobs during the day. HVAC calls in Farragut, duct repair out in Powell, emergency unit swaps in downtown Knoxville. I started taking walks at night, real slow ones, through Derek's quiet neighborhood, letting my thoughts settle without her voice pushing them into guilt. Derek and I grilled steaks on Saturday. We watched the Vols game on Sunday. He didn't ask me to talk, but when I needed to speak, he listened like a brother should. I told him about the time I brought her flowers and she laughed and said, You don't have to pretend. I told him about the voicemail she left last Christmas that made my mom cry, because Heather forgot to show up at our dinner after a sudden work emergency. I told him about the slow rot, the emotional starvation, the guilt she twisted into me every time I asked, Do you still love me? And she'd reply, You're just too sensitive. He didn't interrupt once. He didn't pity me. He just cracked another beer and said, You were drowning. She held her head under. And he was right. The silence was my revenge. You see, people like Heather, they're used to noise, drama, apologies, crying men saying, Please tell me what I did wrong. But when you give them nothing, when the person they thought would never walk away disappears like fog on a windshield, that silence becomes unbearable. And I knew it was starting to hit her, because she started calling my family. My sister Beth texted me. Heather called, said she's worried, wants to check in. I told her you're a grown man and you left for a reason. Even my mom, sweet church-going woman from Chattanooga, told me she picked up the phone, listened to Heather's voice shake, and calmly said, Maybe if you'd listened to him before, he wouldn't have had to leave without a word. That was the first time I cried. Not for Heather, but for myself, because I realized I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I had tried for so long to be enough for someone who already decided I wasn't. Derek gave me space, but he also gave me perspective. One night, we were sitting in his garage late, like 1 a.m., and I asked him, You think I'm wrong for not answering her? He looked me dead in the eye and said, You gave her years of answers, man. What she didn't hear then, she's going to hear now in the silence. That stuck with me. I wasn't punishing her. I was protecting myself. By the 3rd week, Heather's text turned desperate. I miss you. I miss your smell. Your laugh. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten. Please just come home. We can talk. I'll go to therapy. I'll change. I swear to God I'll change. You ignoring me is killing me, Caleb. Please don't do this. Please. But I stayed still, because I knew if I answered too soon, I'd fall into that same trap. The one where I feel guilty for her pain, even though she caused mine. I let the silence grow teeth. I let it echo through the empty hallway she used to walk down, ignoring my presence. I let her sit with the version of herself she pretended didn't exist, the cold, dismissive woman who weaponized space, until I became air. And while she spiraled, I grew. I joined a small gym nearby, started lifting again, got back into old music I forgot I loved, made breakfast for myself without hoping someone else would sit at the table. I even took a day off and drove through the Smoky Mountains alone. No calls, no obligations, just me, breathing. The longer I stayed gone, the clearer I could see. She didn't miss me. She missed the man who made her feel secure while she devalued him. She missed the convenience, the presence, the emotional sponge. But I wasn't that man anymore. I was finally whole. Because silence, real silence, will do one of two things: break you or rebuild you. And I chose to rebuild. I knew she was spiraling the moment she called me babe again. It had been almost 6 weeks since I left the house, since I'd packed that duffel bag, slipped out without a word, and let the silence speak louder than any argument ever could. I hadn't blocked her. I hadn't raged. I hadn't shown up to expose her in front of anyone. No drama. No closure. Just absence. The kind that suffocates slowly. And that's when her messages started to rot from cold to needy. But this babe, it was like hearing a stranger try to imitate something that once belonged to you. And it chilled me to my core. Let me back up. The first few messages after I left were ice cold. I guess this is your way of being dramatic. You always were good at making everything about you. Grow up. Running away doesn't fix anything. Those weren't the words of someone who missed me. They were the last swings of a drowning ego, trying to stab guilt into a man already gone. I read every message. I never replied. I let each bubble sit there like a test. I was watching to see how long she'd pretend I hadn't meant anything to her. That lasted 9 days. On day 10, the tone changed. I'm scared. You haven't answered. Not even to say you're alive. Please, just one message. Still, I said nothing, because I wasn't interested in being checked on like a missing dog. I didn't need her concern now that she couldn't hear my footsteps in the kitchen, or smell my deodorant on the pillows, or complain about my boots by the door. No, I was gone, and gone was working. By the end of the second week, the shift was undeniable. She left me a voicemail. Her voice was raspy like she'd been crying all night. She opened with, "Hey, Caleb, it's me," like I had deleted her from my life, not the other way around. She went on, "I know I messed up. I pushed you away. I didn't realize how far until now. Everything feels wrong. The house is cold. Scout just lies by the door. I tried to cook your chili the other night, and I messed it up. I burned the damn thing. Please call me back. Please." I listened to that voicemail twice. Not because I missed her, but because I wanted to hear the crack in her voice. The sound of reality finally setting in. The unraveling. This wasn't just sadness. This was fear. Because for the first time since we'd met, I had stopped orbiting around her. And she didn't know how to exist without that gravity. I got another message 3 days later. I went to church Sunday morning. Sat alone. The pastor asked us to write something we regret on a slip of paper and burn it. I wrote your name. I couldn't burn it. That one almost made me reply. Almost. But then I remember the last 6 months. The nights she rolled away from me in bed like I was diseased. The mornings she looked through me like I was a stain on the wall. The way she laughed at her phone like she hadn't heard my voice in years. So I stayed silent. By the time we hit week 4, she had entered full breakdown mode. She sent a picture of the bed, our bed, stripped down to bare sheets. The caption said, "I can't sleep here anymore. I just lay here and feel everything you left behind." Another message. "Rick's not even part of my life anymore. That was just texting. I swear, I didn't mean anything by it." And then, "I need you, Caleb. I need you more than I've ever needed anyone in my life." That message came at 2:38 a.m. She was unraveling in real time. Now here's the part that truly shook me. She showed up at my job. I was on a roof downtown, fixing an old building's air unit. Hot day. No clouds. My back drenched in sweat. I was focused, wrench in hand, when I saw Derek waving up at me from the sidewalk. "You've got company," he yelled. I climbed down the ladder, heart already pounding, just knowing it was her. And there she was, standing on the pavement in jeans and a Tennessee Vols hoodie, when I bought her the Fair 4 years ago. Her hair was a mess. Eyes puffy. No makeup. Just raw. She looked like a woman who hadn't slept in days. "Caleb," she said, voice cracking. Please just look at me." I stood there in my work gloves, staring back. I didn't say a word. She stepped closer, tears forming now. "I can't do this without you," she whispered. "I know you hate me. I know I pushed you away. But I was scared. I was selfish. I didn't realize I was killing what we had until it was already gone." I finally took a breath, looked her in the eye, and said, "You didn't kill it. You've buried it alive." She gasped. Hand her mouth. Like the weight of those words cracked a rib. "You used to reach for me," I added. "Then you stopped. And when I reached for you, you pulled away like I was something filthy. Now you miss what? My presence? Or the comfort of knowing I'd always be there?" She stepped forward to touch my arm. I took a single step back, not out of cruelty, but because I'd finally drawn the line. She left that day broken, truly broken, and that's when the messages stopped being about me. They became about her. "I can't eat. I'm shaking all the time. I don't know who I am without you." That's when I knew. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was begging to be rescued from the emptiness she'd created. But that wasn't my job anymore. I wish I could tell you I took joy in watching her fall apart. But I didn't, because there's nothing joyful about watching someone destroy the very thing they now miss. It's tragic. It's human. It's real. But it's not my burden to carry anymore. She changed her tone from cold to desperate. She tried everything. Texts, voicemails, a letter in the mailbox at Derek's. She even emailed me once with the subject line, "The woman you loved still lives here." But by then, I'd moved on from needing to hear that, because I finally understood something she never did. Love without respect is just emotional debt. And I'd paid enough interest on that marriage. You ever look back at something and realize you were the last person to know? That's how it felt. Like I'd been living inside a burning house, choking on the smoke, while everyone outside was standing around whispering, "Poor guy, he doesn't even realize it's on fire." Let me tell you how I found out. It was a random Wednesday afternoon. I had just finished a unit replacement in Farragut, one of those old brick homes with crawl spaces tight enough to snap your back in two if you breathe wrong. I was covered in dust and fiberglass, driving back toward Oak Ridge in my beat-up Ford, windows down, country radio low, when my phone buzzed with a text from my sister. Beth. She's a nurse at a pediatric clinic in Chattanooga, and she's the type of woman who can hold a screaming toddler with one hand and deliver brutal truth with the other, always coded in Southern grace. She never meddled in my marriage, never talked bad about Heather, even when I vented. But that text? It was different. "Caleb, you got a minute to talk? There's something I've been sitting on." I pulled into a gas station parking lot and called her right away. She picked up on the first ring. Her voice sounded tight, like she'd been rehearsing something and finally built the nerve to say it. "I didn't want to be the one to tell you this," she started. "But after everything that's happened, you deserve to know." "Know what?" I asked, chest already tightening. "I saw Heather about 2 months ago, before you left, at a Chili's off Gun Barrel Road." I blinked. "Okay." "She wasn't alone," Beth said. "She was with some guy. Not a friend. Not a cousin. Some man. They were sitting in a booth, real close. She touched his hand a couple times. Leaned into him like she forgot she had a husband." I froze. I could see it in my head like a photograph. Heather, dressed up on some random Thursday night, smiling in that fake flirty way she used to smile at me. But this time, it wasn't me sitting across from her. It was him. Rick. Had to be. I didn't say anything for a full 30 seconds. Beth broke the silence. "I didn't want to wreck your world if it was nothing. I told myself maybe it was work, maybe I was overthinking. But seeing you now, the way you've left, the things you've said, Caleb, I think you already knew. And the truth is, I did. Not with my eyes, but with my gut. I'd felt it in every cold shoulder, every late shift, every random burst of laughter from her phone, followed by that screen going face down on the table. I'd felt it in the way she stopped asking me to touch her, then acted disgusted when I tried. But hearing it from Beth, that turned suspicion into certainty. It wasn't paranoia. It was reality. That night, back at Derek's, I sat outside in a camping chair, staring up at the Tennessee stars, sipping a beer that tasted like copper. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, processing the fact that everyone around me, the people who truly loved me, had seen the cracks forming long before I acknowledged them. Derek came out around 10 p.m. and sat beside me. I didn't say a word. He did. "Beth told you, didn't she?" I turned to him slowly. "You knew, too." He nodded, almost ashamed. "Saw Heather once last fall at a gas station. She was with some guy. Not anyone I recognized. Real cozy. I let it go. Figured you'd bring it up if it meant something. But then you didn't." I shook my head, laughing bitterly. "So everybody knew but me." "No." Derek said. You knew too. You just didn't want to believe it. And he was right. Denial is a hell of a drug. See, when you love someone, you don't just make excuses for them. You build entire narratives to protect yourself from the truth. You tell yourself, she's just tired. We're both stressed. She's not cheating. She's just distant. But the truth had been hanging in front of me like a chandelier ready to fall. I just kept standing under it, pretending I didn't see the cracks in the ceiling. And the worst part? I think Heather knew I knew, and she counted on my silence. Counted on me being the quiet type, the man who wouldn't stir trouble, the husband too loyal to walk away, even while she emotionally left me every damn day. But I did walk away, and now the silence she once relied on had turned against her. Beth called again 2 days later. She told me Heather had reached out. She said she's sorry if I misunderstood what I saw. I laughed. She said she was just going through something and that you were being distant, Beth continued. She wanted me to talk to you, to see if I could help fix this. I asked Beth to tell her something for me. Tell her I don't need her apologies. I needed her loyalty, and she cashed that in months ago. Beth hesitated. You sure you want me to say that? Word for word, I said, and she did. I know because Heather didn't text me for 3 days after that. Not one message. Radio silence. But when she finally broke it, when that dam cracked again, it came in the form of a long, desperate, spiraling message at 3:11 a.m. I didn't sleep with him. I swear. It never got that far. I was just lonely, and I needed attention, and I hated the way we were living, and I was angry that you didn't notice I was hurting too. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't think you'd leave. You were supposed to be the one person who always stayed. That line, that last line, that was the one that twisted the knife. Because yes, I had always stayed. Through the coldness, the rejections, the late nights, and the unexplained laughs. Through the long silences and the absence of any affection. I had stayed because I thought that's what love was, endurance. But love isn't about staying when you're being erased. Love is about showing up. And she stopped showing up a long time ago. My family knew. They didn't say anything because they knew how hard I loved her. And I don't blame them. Because when you see someone walking into a brick wall, sometimes you pray they'll stop on their own. Sometimes they have to hit it full speed to finally wake up. I hit it. Hard. But I got back up. And this time, I didn't walk back into that house. Because that house wasn't mine anymore. It never was. She pulled up while I was tightening a rusted bolt on the side of a rooftop unit. I heard the brakes first. That jerky, uneven stop of someone who isn't thinking clearly. The kind you feel in your chest more than your ears. Then came the car door slamming too hard, followed by heels on pavement. I knew it was her before I even looked down from the roof. I could feel her presence like a pressure drop in the air. And I swear to God, I didn't feel a thing. Not anger, not sadness, not excitement, nothing, just silence. Like my body had already decided she was part of a past life. I wiped the sweat from my forehead and peered over the edge. She was standing next to her car, a silver Honda Civic I'd paid half of, by the way, wearing jeans and that navy hoodie I got her for Christmas 3 years ago. The one she never wore anymore. Now suddenly, it was back on her body like some twisted tribute to the man she threw away. Her hair was pulled back, messy like she hadn't brushed it that morning. No makeup. Her face looked older, not from age, but from restlessness. You could see it in her eyes. Bloodshot, puffy, haunted. Heather had officially cracked. Caleb, she shouted. I ignored her and went back to the unit, slow and deliberate. I didn't rush, didn't acknowledge her, just kept working like she was a stranger on the sidewalk. Because at that point, that's all she was. Caleb, please, she cried out again, louder this time. Derek, who was at ground level moving tools from the truck, looked up at me with wide eyes. He didn't say anything, just gave me a nod like, you good? I nodded back once, then climbed down the ladder. By the time I hit the ground, Heather had crossed the parking lot and was standing 5 feet away from me. She looked small, broken, trembling. I didn't know where else to find you, she stammered, voice cracking. You haven't answered anything. Not a text. Not a call. I needed to see you. I stared at her, silent. I didn't ask how she was. Didn't say hello. Didn't blink. That silence? It wasn't out of spite. It was power. Pure, clean, quiet power. She took a shaky breath and stepped closer. I miss you, she said. I miss us. I made mistakes, Caleb. I know I did. But you disappearing like this, it's killing me. I still said nothing. She reached out, like she was going to touch my arm, but I stepped back. Just one small, subtle step. But it hit her like a slap across the face. Please don't do this, she whispered. Please just talk to me. And finally I did. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, You only miss me now because I stopped being convenient. She flinched. I wasn't yelling. My voice was calm, cold, measured. You didn't miss me when I was sitting 3 feet away from you at dinner while you laughed at Rick's texts. I added, You didn't miss me when I brought you Thai food and you threw it in the trash because you weren't in the mood for carbs. You didn't miss me when I reached for you in bed and you rolled over like I was disgusting. Her lips started trembling. You told me you wanted space, I said. So I gave you space. And now you're drowning in it. That's when the tears started falling. Heavy, ugly, real. Not the little crocodile tears she used when we'd argue and she wanted me to drop it. These tears came from the bottom of whatever part of her had finally woken up. I was scared, she choked. I didn't know how to fix it. I thought maybe if I pulled away, you'd notice. But you got quieter. You started shutting down. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I tilted my head slightly. So you ignored me to get my attention? She nodded, sobbing now. That's emotional warfare, Heather, I said. You don't win someone's heart back by starving them of love and waiting for them to crawl back. She dropped her head. I didn't sleep with him, she mumbled. Rick, I swear. It never got that far. I laughed. Not out of humor, but disbelief. It didn't have to. The betrayal was emotional. You were already gone before your body left the room. She covered her face with both hands, collapsing onto the curb like her legs couldn't hold her weight anymore. People were watching now, a few of my coworkers, a guy from the neighboring shop. She didn't care. She was unraveling in public, no longer the cold, composed woman who shrugged off my affection like lint on her sweater. This was real. This was collapse. She looked up at me, mascara and now dripping even though I didn't think she'd had any on. What do I have to do to make this right? I shook my head slowly. You can't rewind emotional damage, Heather. There's no button to erase the months of indifference. There's no apology that fixes waking up next to someone who made you feel invisible. But I love you, she whispered. I nodded. Maybe you do, but I don't trust it anymore. And love without trust is just pain waiting to happen again. She got up slowly, wobbled a bit, walked back to her car like she was walking through fog. And me? I turned back to my toolbox. I had a job to finish. Because her drama wasn't my emergency anymore. Derek came over 20 minutes later while I was tightening the last valve. You good? He asked. I looked at him and smiled for the first time in days. Yeah, I said. I'm real good. And I meant it. Because standing there in the heat, tools in my hands, grease on my forearms, I realized something powerful. She had to fall apart in front of me, so I could finally walk away without guilt. Not because I hated her, but because I finally loved myself more than I loved the idea of fixing something she spent a year breaking. And the peace that comes from that, it's louder than any "I'm sorry" ever spoken. I didn't block her. That's what messed with her the most. I left the door cracked just enough for her to see the darkness on the other side. Not a slam, not a lock, just an eerie silence, the kind that creeps up on you when you realize you've been talking to a wall. She kept texting. Almost every other day now. Each message was more frantic than the last. I can't eat. I had a panic attack in the grocery store today. I keep waking up thinking you're beside me, and then I remember you're gone. Please, Caleb, just talk to me. But I didn't. Not because I hated her, I didn't. Not even because I wanted to punish her. I stayed silent because I was finally breathing again. I'd spent the last 2 years suffocating in a marriage where every effort I made was swallowed by a woman who couldn't, or wouldn't, see the man in front of her. And now, finally, I wasn't clinging to that void anymore. My healing started in the quiet, unnoticed places. Like the morning I woke up and didn't reach for my phone to check for her messages. Like the moment I sat on Derek's back porch, drinking black coffee in the 7 a.m. chill, and realized I hadn't clenched my jaw in days. Or when I took a shower and didn't hear her imaginary voice criticizing me in my head. You always use all the hot water. You left the towel on the floor again. It was strange at first how peaceful the world felt without her in it. Like someone had turned off a machine that had been humming behind my eyes for months. I wasn't used to it, but damn, I liked it. I started doing things just for me. Nothing major at first, just stuff I hadn't done in years. I bought a new pair of running shoes and started jogging in the evenings around Melton Lake Greenway. Slow at first. My knees cracked. My lungs burned. But I kept going. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I wanted a divorce glow up. But because I wanted to feel like I was taking care of myself again. I stopped eating fast food and started cooking for myself. Simple things: grilled chicken, baked potatoes, scrambled eggs. I seasoned them the way I liked. Put hot sauce on everything. Sat alone and actually enjoyed the quiet of the kitchen. No one there to roll their eyes if I used too much garlic. And then one night, something shifted. It was late. I just gotten back from a service call in Sevierville, and I was filthy, sweat, dust, oil, the whole nine. I showered at Derek's, walked into the garage with a cold beer, sat down, and I felt happy. Not wild, jumping joy, but peace. True, slow, undeniable peace. And I hadn't felt that in years. Heather, meanwhile, she was spiraling. Derek showed me a voicemail she left on a shop phone. She tracked down where I was working, probably through a mutual friend, and left this breathless, half-sobbing message. I know you think I don't care. I know you think I threw you away. But I didn't realize how deep I'd cut you until you left. I keep replaying everything. Every time I brushed you off, every time I said I was too tired, too busy, too stressed. I was just unhappy with myself, and I took it out on you. Please, Caleb, I need you. Just come home. I'll do anything. I listened once. That was enough. Because what she was describing, that was a grave she dug with her own hands. And now she wanted me to crawl back into it with her. But I was done being buried alive. One afternoon, I bumped into a woman at the grocery store. Nothing romantic, nothing flirty, just one of those little human moments. She was probably in her late 30s, brunette, soft smile. I was reaching for a jar of marinara and accidentally knocked it off the shelf. She caught it before it shattered. Nice hands, I said, half joking. I've caught worse, she replied. We both laughed. And then, here's the part that stunned me. She looked me in the eye, genuinely, with kindness, with presence. And I realized it had been so long since a woman had just looked at me without judgment, without annoyance, without the dead eyes Heather gave me for so long. I didn't ask for her number, didn't turn it into anything, but I walked away smiling, because I finally believed that someone else, someday, could see me. Back at Derek's, he started making comments. You're walking taller, man. You're not pacing anymore. You smile now when your phone buzzes, because you hope it's not her. He wasn't wrong. Heather's messages were now paragraphs long. I talked to my therapist. She said I sabotaged something good because I didn't know how to love myself. I miss your stupid jokes. The way you used to dance when you cooked eggs. I miss hearing your boots on the stairs. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. And I couldn't see it. Until you vanished. Please let me fix this. But by that point, I learned something that changed my entire view of our marriage. You can't fix something with the same hands that broke it. Not when they never learned how to hold it right in the first place. I started journaling again. It sounds cheesy, but it helped. I'd sit in the corner of the garage, pen in hand, and just unload all the stuff I used to hold in. Things like, she didn't cheat on me with her body, but she cheated with her silence. I wasn't asking to be worshipped. I just wanted to be noticed. She didn't destroy me. She showed me where I was already bleeding. Every time I wrote a sentence like that, something lifted off my chest. And every time I ignored her newest message, I felt stronger. Because I wasn't ghosting her out of revenge. I was ghosting the version of me that accepted crumbs and called it love. About a month into my healing, Heather sent one final text that told me everything I needed to know. You're stronger than I thought. And that terrifies me. Because I always believed you'd never leave. That's on me. No begging. No blaming. Just a raw truth. And yeah, she was right. She had believed I'd never leave. She thought I was the type of man who would always be understanding, always available, always willing to try harder, no matter how little she gave. But that's the danger of mistaking kindness for weakness. Eventually, Even the softest man remembers how to walk away. These days, I sleep like a damn baby. I still crash at Derek's most nights, but I've started looking for my own place. Somewhere quiet, maybe outside of town. I want a dog again, not Scout. He's still with her, and I wouldn't take him away, but maybe a rescue, someone who's been through hell like me. I don't check my phone first thing anymore. I check the weather. I check my own heart. I check for signs of peace, and I find them. I never planned to walk through that front door again. I was done. My mind was clear, my body lighter, my spirit finally breathing after years underwater. But then one Sunday morning, just as the sun was starting to climb over Oak Ridge, I got a message from Heather that felt different. Not hysterical, not manipulative, just hollow. If there's any chance left, any at all, can you come by today? Just for 10 minutes. I won't beg. I just need to see you face to face one last time. I need to know if you're really gone. I sat with that message for hours, went for a run, made eggs, drank 2 cups of coffee while staring at the walls of Derek's garage like they might give me the answer. And then I realized something. I wasn't afraid anymore. That house didn't hold power over me. Her words didn't slice the way they used to. So I texted her back. I'll stop by at 4. That's all I can give you. I pulled into the driveway at 3:59 p.m. on the dot. Same cracked concrete. Same uneven flower bed she never really took care of. Same little American flag sticker on the mailbox, the one I put there after my dad passed. Everything looked exactly the same. But I wasn't the same. Not even close. I stepped out of the truck wearing jeans, a clean white t-shirt, and boots that had walked through hell and come out standing tall. I didn't bring a bag. Didn't come with intentions. Just keys in my pocket and closure in my chest. When she opened the front door, it hit me harder than I expected. She looked small, not physically, emotionally, like someone who had shrunk under the weight of their own regrets. Her hair was tied up in a lazy bun, her eyes dark with exhaustion, her sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder like she hadn't had the energy to dress herself with care. She stepped aside to let me in. I didn't say hi. I didn't hug her. I walked into the living room, our old living room, and stood near the spot where my recliner used to be before she donated it without asking. The silence sat between us like an open grave. "Thank you for coming," she finally said, voice barely above a whisper. I nodded once. She wrung her hands, eyes darting from the floor to the window to me, like she couldn't settle. I've been going to therapy," she started, "twice a week, trying to figure out why I pushed you away. Why I always act like I don't need anyone when deep down I'm terrified of being alone." I didn't respond, not out of cruelty, but because nothing she said could undo what I had lived through. She kept going. "I keep remembering things. Like the time you brought home dinner from that Thai place I liked, and I rolled my eyes and told you I wasn't hungry. I don't even know why I said that. You looked so proud of yourself, and I just killed it." Her voice cracked. "And the night you came into our room and tried to just hold me, and I said I was tired. I wasn't tired, Caleb. I just didn't know how to let you love me anymore because I didn't feel like I deserved it. Still, I stayed quiet. Because what you say to that? What does a man say when the woman who spent a year treating him like a ghost finally admits she saw him the whole time and chose to look away?" She walked to the couch and sat slowly, then looked up at me. "I know you're not coming back," she said, "but I needed to see it. With my own eyes. I needed to look at your face and feel the weight of what I lost." That's when I finally spoke. Soft, firm, clear. "I gave you everything I had. Not just money, not just effort. I gave you patience. I gave you my presence, even when you ignored it. And you made me feel like I was too much and not enough at the same time." She looked like she'd been shot. I continued. "When I left, I didn't leave because of one thing. I left because of 1,000 tiny wounds that never stopped bleeding. You didn't just break my heart. You made me ashamed of wanting to be loved by you." Tears started spilling down her cheeks. Real ones. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just the slow grief of someone who understood, finally, what they'd done. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she whispered. I nodded. "Good. Because I don't need to. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to look you in the eye and let you see what peace looks like." She covered her mouth with both hands and sobbed quietly. "I should have reached for you," she cried. "I should have kissed you every time you looked at me like I was worth it. I was selfish. I was broken. but you never stopped being good to me. I stepped back, not closer, back, because this was the part where men usually cave, where we mistake emotion for sincerity, where we hear the right words too late and pretend that rewinding is an option. But I was done rewinding. I walked to the door. She stood up behind me, clutching the edge of the couch like it was a lifeline. "Is there really no chance?" she asked. I turned around, met her gaze, and said, "There's no chance with the version of you who let me suffer in silence. And I don't know if that version is gone for good." She broke again, fell back into the couch like her legs gave out. I opened the door. The afternoon light spilled in. Then I turned to her one last time. "I loved you so hard I lost myself. Now I'm learning to love me again. And that's not something I'm giving up." I walked out, didn't look back, didn't pause, just walked. Back in my truck, I sat in the silence for a minute. No music, no rush. And then I exhaled. That kind of exhale that carries years of pain with it. Like finally setting down a backpack you didn't realize was filled with bricks. She begged me to come back. And I visited, just once, so she could see what losing a good man really looks like. Not with slammed doors or angry speeches, but with peace. The kind she'll never forget. She didn't just lose me, she lost control of the story. And that might have hurt her more than anything. See, when I left, she assumed she'd get ahead of it. That's how people like Heather operate. They live for optics. Appearances. The spin. Before I even had a chance to unpack my bag at Derek's place, she was already rewriting the breakup for anyone who'd listen. Caleb just shut down. He got distant. I think he had something going on mentally. I begged him to communicate, but he just gave up on us. It was subtle, sneaky, the kind of narrative that makes her look like the patient, heartbroken wife left behind by a cold, emotionally unavailable man. She painted me as the one who disappeared for no reason, like I ghosted a good marriage out of boredom. And for a minute, it worked, at least with the people who didn't know me. But lies age fast, and truth, even the quiet kind, always shows up with receipts. The first call came from Leslie, one of her old co-workers from the dental clinic. We weren't close, but she always treated me like a human being when I stopped by to drop Heather's lunch or change her tire that one time in the parking lot. She texted out of nowhere. "Hey, don't mean to overstep, but if you ever want to talk, I know what really happened." She's been running her mouth, and people are getting tired of it. That one hit me, not because I was surprised she was talking, but because I didn't expect anyone to push back. We met up for coffee the next afternoon. Neutral spot, Perk City Cafe off Kingston Pike. I showed up early, ordered a black coffee, sat by the window. She came in 5 minutes later, wearing scrubs and a ponytail, looking like she just clocked out. She sat down, didn't even say hello before diving in. "She's telling people you were emotionally distant for months, that she tried everything and you just abandoned her." I nodded slowly. "Makes sense. That's her move." Leslie leaned in. "But we all knew. We saw how she treated you. She never smiled when you showed up. She'd roll her eyes behind your back. And that guy, Rick, it wasn't innocent. They were texting all the damn time. Flirty, laughing, sharing TikToks during lunch. The whole office saw it. We just didn't want to get involved." I looked down at my cup, took a slow sip. That bitterness? It wasn't just from the coffee. "I wish someone had told me," I said. She sighed. "You were already carrying enough. And honestly, most people assumed you knew, that maybe you just didn't want to deal with it." I nodded again, slower this time, because she was right. Deep down, I did know. But when you love someone, your brain makes excuses faster than your heart can handle the truth. After that meeting, the dam broke. People started reaching out. My buddy Mark, who coached Little League with me 5 years back, called out of the blue. "Hey man, Heather told Amanda that you went cold. Said you were depressed and just stopped trying. But I remember how many times you invited us over and she'd cancel last minute. I remember how many games she skipped. That ain't on you." Then there was Maria, Heather's college friend. We hadn't spoken in over a year. She messaged me on Facebook. "I've been thinking about you a lot. Heather said you left suddenly, that you couldn't handle adult life anymore. But honestly, she's been checked out for a long time. Even at girls' nights, she talked about you like you were some burden. You didn't deserve that." Every message was a stitch. Each call, a thread pulling me back together. Because for so long, I thought no one saw what I went through. Turns out they did. They just stayed quiet, the same way I did. Then came the real nail in the coffin. Heather tried to throw a small, healing dinner for some of our mutual friends. Kind of subtle PR move like, hey everyone, I'm doing okay. Let me remind you I'm the victim. But she miscalculated who she invited. Liam and Aaron, old couple friends of ours from church, showed up. They hadn't seen me since before the split. I got a call from Liam that night. She tried to say you abandoned her emotionally, he said. But I asked her point blank, do you think he just woke up one day and stopped caring? And she froze. Didn't answer. I smiled. That sounds like her. He chuckled on the other end. Aaron looked her dead in the eye and said, you're grieving the consequences of how you treated him, not the loss of him. The room went quiet. That line, that perfect, brutal line, stuck with me. She wasn't grieving me. She was grieving the version of herself that could still say she was the one left behind. After that night, the narrative shifted. Not because I made a scene, not because I posted some dramatic tell-all online, but because people started connecting the dots. The long silences, the missing wedding ring, the weird work dinners, the way I lost weight and looked hollow 6 months before I left. Truth has a rhythm, a pattern. It shows up in hindsight and says, you already knew this. And now everyone else did too. The best part? I never had to defend myself. I didn't rant. I didn't expose screenshots. I didn't get messy. I just lived. I just healed. And she self-destructed under the weight of the very image she tried to craft. One day, I heard from Trina, a woman who used to host our neighborhood barbecues. She said Heather came over to return a baking dish and ended up crying in her kitchen. He's really gone, Heather said. And people don't even look at me the same anymore. Trina said nothing. Because what do you say to someone who buried a man alive and then asked why the funeral wasn't more cheerful? This isn't a revenge story. This is a truth story. The truth always comes home, even when you don't go knocking. Heather tried to rewrite the script. Paint me cold, distant, unfeeling. But the truth? I was warm for too long. I stayed too long. I tried too hard. And when I finally left, I didn't burn the house down. I just took my fire with me. And without it, she froze. Some memories don't hurt anymore, but they still leave marks. Like faint fingerprints on foggy glass. You don't see them unless you look hard, but they're there. And Heather? She's one of those memories. Some days, I'll catch the scent of jasmine in the grocery store. And just for a second, I'll think about how she used to wear that perfume in spring. Or I'll hear someone say, I'm not in a mood right now. And I'll get this split-second flashback of lying next to a woman who once used that phrase to slowly erase me. But here's the thing. I don't flinch when those memories come up. Because I didn't just survive what happened. I outgrew it. After everything, the silence, the rejection, the breakdown, the lies she told, the tears she shed when it was too late, I walked away. And I never looked back with regret. Leaving wasn't easy. Healing wasn't fast. But it was real. And the man I am today, he's someone I'm damn proud of. I live alone now. Got a place outside Oak Ridge, about 15 minutes from where I used to crash at Derek's. It's nothing big, 2 bedrooms, simple kitchen, with floors that creak when the heat kicks in. But it's mine. Every wall, every drawer, every coffee cup. I picked it. No one rolls their eyes at the way I organize my tools. No one glares when I hum while I cook. No one scoffs when I take 5 minutes to myself on the back porch just to watch the sky turn orange. Peace isn't loud. It's steady. And when you've lived in chaos long enough, you learn to worship the calm. I got a rescue dog now. Her name's Ruby. Mixed breed, big ears, crooked tail, eyes like she's seen some SH Astros T2. Found her at the shelter. Nobody wanted her because she was too skittish. I understood that. I'd been there. I brought her home anyway. She doesn't flinch when I raise my voice because I don't raise it. She doesn't hide under the table because she's safe now. Some nights, she climbs up onto the couch, rests her head on my leg, and I'll just sit there scratching behind her ear thinking, this is what healing looks like. It's not a speech. It's not revenge. It's peace, shared between 2 beings who learned how to trust again. Heather still tries sometimes. Not often, but enough. A text on Christmas, thinking of you. Hope you're warm. A message on my birthday. I still remember your laugh. Hope someone else gets to hear it. A call last fall that I didn't answer. Her voicemail started with I'm sorry and ended with I miss your silence more than I ever missed your words. I didn't reply, not because I'm bitter, But because I'm not that man anymore. She's not messaging the same Caleb she once ignored in the kitchen while texting someone else. She's talking to a ghost. I don't talk back. People always think closure is a conversation, that you need to sit down and get it all out. But sometimes closure is just deciding. Deciding you don't owe them the version of you that crawled for their affection. Deciding your peace matters more than their apology. That's what I did. And that's why I don't hate her. I understand her now. She was broken. Maybe still is. And I try to love her through it. But she mistook consistency for weakness. Mistook my patience for passivity. And by the time she realized I was the anchor keeping her steady, she'd already let go of the rope. She'll have to live with that. Me? I built something better. These days, I wake up before the sun. I run a few miles through Har Ridge Park with Ruby, grab coffee at the same spot every morning where they know my name, and head to work. Same HVAC hustle, same tools, same truck, but a different man behind the wheel. I'm dating again, slow, no pressure. I met Hannah at a hardware store of all places. She was holding a gallon of paint like it was going to bite her. I helped her carry it to her car, and she smiled in a way that didn't feel performative. She didn't flirt, didn't force it, just smiled, like people do when they're genuinely kind. We've been on a few dates. Simple stuff. Tacos, bowling, walking Ruby through the park while talking about childhood trauma and laughing like old souls. And the best part? I never once feel like I have to shrink to be next to her. I still see some of our old friend around. And the funny part? They don't ask me about Heather anymore. They ask me about Ruby, about the house, about the trails I'm hiking next. Because the version of Caleb they see now, that man isn't defined by what he lost. He's shaped by what he refused to keep accepting. The truth is, yes, I remember her. I remember how she smelled when she laughed, how she hummed when she did dishes, how she curled up under blankets like a cat in winter. But I also remember how cold she got, how she looked through me, how she withheld affection like it was a weapon. And I remember the moment I realized that staying was no longer noble. It was self-destruction. So I left, quietly, completely. And I've never once looked back thinking, what if? Because I know exactly what would have happened. I would have kept pouring into someone who refused to hold the cup still. So yeah, these days I still remember her. But I never regret leaving. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from the person you once swore you'd never live without, and finally learn to live with yourself.